Greetings, everyone. This is Greg Drevenstedt, Editor-in-Chief at Rider Magazine, and your host for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. Our guest today is Valerie Thompson. Known as the Queen of Speed and the world's fastest female motorcycle racer, she is a professional racer and owner at Valerie Thompson Racing. Thompson is an 8-time land speed record holder, and she's a member of 7 200-mile-per-hour clubs, 1 300-mile-per-hour club, as well as the Sturgis Motorcycle Hall of Fame. Thompson clocked 328.467 miles per hour on the Bub 7 Streamliner. At the upcoming Bonneville Speed Trials, she will attempt to break the overall motorcycle speed record of 376.363 miles per hour, which was set in 2010 by Rocky Robinson in the Attack Streamliner. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So your racing career goes back more than a decade, and you've achieved the title of the world's fastest female motorcycle racer. So how did you get started in racing?
Well, I got started in just racing because I was racing on the street, and somebody had told me to take it to the racetrack. And once I got there, I never left. So I really didn't know what we didn't know what we were doing. We were just having fun, making some hot laps, and, just trying to push our street bike on the racetrack to its limits. And, we never did burnouts because we always wanted to save the tire to, get back home. But I quickly learned that I needed to do some burnouts, but not on my bike.
Right.
So Rick Hatch from Hacienda Harley Davidson said, I got this V-Rod Destroyer. Will you race it for our dealership? And that was like, oh my gosh, that was the it bike. Everybody wanted that bike to race because it was the first Harley Davidson motorcycle drag bike right out of the box, mid 9-second bike. And it was a great bike. It was a great learning bike, definitely for me.
So you are a full-time racer?
I am a full-time racer, yes. I had a little pickleball career in my racing as well, so that's a part of my fitness regimen, but we can talk about that later.
So you had a career in banking, I understand, and that you are now a full-time racer, so it sounds like you're living the dream at this point.
I am. I'm juggling 2 careers right now. But yeah, I went from banking from 13 years of being, I finally got laid off. They said I could move to Ohio, or I could, get my severance package and be on my way. So I decided to take a leap of faith and took the severance package and took a little time off to decide what I wanted to do. I mean, I could quickly go back into the banking industry. I was definitely a good employee and definitely knew what I was doing there, but I knew that there was something else for me.
So the racing that you've done is you've done some drag racing, and you also are now known for doing land speed racing. Are there other types of motorcycle racing you've done, or is it mostly about trying to get as fast as you can in a straight line?
It just mostly as fast as I can. I did take the Keith Code road racing school, but I found out quickly that wasn't the right thing for me. However, all I wanted to do was see what my BMW S1000 RR had. I wanted to know what the capability and what the hype was about my bike. And all I knew was going in a fast straight line, but I really wanted to know what it was really all about when you're road racing.
Well, I'm sure some people that have never tried to do any drag racing, I've actually been fortunate to have a couple of attempts to do it during press launches. I did it once during a Harley Davidson V-Rod press launch. I did it once at a ZX14 launch, and they actually had Ricky Gadsden there trying to give us some pointers. And is what I think people that have never attempted a drag racing run don't realize is it's not just a matter of letting out the clutch and hitting the gas. There's so much more involved in just, I mean, it's instinct and timing. Is that it's a lot harder than people, I think, probably fully understand. I think some people that ride motorcycles can probably understand the challenge of going fast around corners, but going fast from a dead stop is a whole world in and of itself.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot that goes on in a drag race. And it's not just, beating the record. It's now beating your opponent, and it's now like there's the lights that you go, the Christmas tree. You got, we call it the Christmas tree. It's the form, it's the procedure. And it's getting to the end of the racetrack all in one piece too.
Absolutely.
And stop and safe.
Sure. So when you're at the line, so do you know, like, as soon as you've gotten started, whether you've had a good run or not? I mean, because everything happens so fast. I mean, it's literally just, it's milliseconds can
Mhm.
determine a good run from a bad run. Do you have a feel for when whether you have a good run or a bad run almost right away?
It's all about in the line, the first 60 feet. And when you've actually done a good job on the line. The time slip really tells the truth, but your gut instinct also does too. So yeah.
So how did you get into land speed racing? That's a whole other dynamic. It's typically a slower start sometimes. I mean, it depends on. You can hopefully explain to us sort of how you go fast on the salt, because that's not a surface people would be familiar with
Right.
riding.
It
What
definitely
what
wasn't
is it
a
like?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a surface I was familiar with, because as I was a drag racer at the time, it was my sponsor, Legend Air Ride Suspension, Jesse Jurens. He has had all these custom built motorcycles, and he was a big supporter of the Bonneville Motorcycle Speed Trials. At the time, it was the Bub Speed Trials, and so he was out there with his, nice custom bike, showing them off, especially with their legendary suspension. And he was the one that asked me to come and ride one of his really stretched out, long custom motorcycles, and they're all amazing. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I would love to ride your bike, but wait a minute, at the Bonneville Salt Flats." I was deathly afraid of the salt flats, only because I thought I was gonna like slip around, and if I turned the corner too tight, I would just the bike would take me off. And the surface was unpredictable. I had never touched or seen the salt flats. And so the bike that I was riding and racing at the time was a V Rod, a turbo V Rod. Charlie Mitchell, he was an owner of a Custom Performance along with Nick Trask, who still owns Nick Trask owns Trask Performance. And so I raced their V-Rod Destroyer, or no, not their Destroyer, but their V-Rod, Turbo V-Rod. And Jesse had told me to bring my own drag bike, or my own bike, that I was racing. I said, okay, I'll do that. But he took some laps down the racetrack and blew it up. So I never got a chance to even ride his bike. But it was definitely an experience that I had never had before on the salt flats. And I did, for my first run with Chevron, I went 153 miles per hour.
Wow.
So that was quite a really nice accomplishment.
Well, I know you are a member of several 200-mile-per-hour clubs, and you have a very rare accomplishment of being a member of a 300-mile-per-hour club. People I've spoken to before, I've never gone 200 miles per hour, but they said that, the difference of just a few miles per hour, at that level is very different. So then to add a complete other level to go up another 100 miles per hour is, how did you progress through the land speed racing ranks? To basically, not everybody can race at that speed or at that level. So how did you progress up through those ranks?
Well, I definitely have brought my patience, and definitely did race motorcycles of all kinds. I've been on a lot of different brands of motorcycles, especially on the salt flats, and some slow, some fast, but definitely did my time. And when Kerry Alter asked me to ride his BMW S1000RR, that was the turning point of going over 200 miles per hour. And that's where it started, this monstrous speed that I was really going for. I always wanted to be fast. I always wanted to be the fastest in my class. But when I started racing that S1000RR, it was like a night and day difference from what I was riding. And once I accomplished what I wanted to on the BMW, There was just the opportunity that came to ride. They were looking for a racer to bring sponsorship to the Bub 7 and, and to race. So I've known Dennis for a long time, and I started, racing in his event at the Bub 7 or the Bub Motorcycle. I can't even say it right anymore because it's not even in existence, but I am racing the Bub 7 Streamliner, but it was the Bub Motorcycle Speed Trials, and now
Right,
it's the
right,
Bonneville Motorcycle Speed Trials. So that's a handful.
right. So I've actually only been to the speed trials when it was still called the Bub Motorcycle Trials. It was back in 2008. I
Yeah,
got a chance to meet Dennis Manning, and I got to see the Bub 7 Streamliner in that iteration. I know those vehicles like that are always evolving. They're always being developed and improved and so forth. And the conditions were not such that year that they could do a full run to attempt the record. And so in that situation, can you tell listeners what it would be like for what conditions do you need for you to really go after a record-breaking run that's going to be the current record is
76 miles.
376.363 miles per hour, and you've gone over 328 miles per hour in the Bub 7 Streamliner. What conditions do you need to be there to be for you to make an attempt at that speed?
Well, racing at this level of, the highest level, the record, the only record that is the highest, at 376 miles per hour, your conditions have to be 0 to 3 miles per hour. We don't race our Streamliner with more than 3 miles per hour of any direction. And so that's the number one thing that we have to be very patient for when we are at the salt flats. And so, that it, everything else gels afterwards.
So it's got to be as dead still as it can with no
It's still,
crosswinds, headwinds, tailwinds, just as minimal wind. And then the salt itself, the condition of the salt varies year to year. Some years I know it may be if it can still even be wet and they have to wait for it to dry. Is that also something you challenge with?
oh,
Maybe not the
absolutely.
drought
The
year, but
surface, yeah, the surface goes along with the wind. And the we prep when they prep the track, it's actually really good for us motorcycle racing. And speed week, we don't even bring the bike to the speed week because there's so many dips, because there's so many heavy cars that make launching their cars from the starting line has a nice little dip in it. And I know that for a fact because I raced the Target 550 car, and that it's only, over 8,000 pounds. So, can you imagine that digging into the salt and creating, it'll upset the motorcycle, definitely.
sure. So obviously the motorcycle trials are going to be dedicated specifically to those bikes. So they're at a completely different time. The track is prepped
Yes.
in a different way. So for the motorcycle trials, how long is the track and sort of what is the progression of the length of the track? I mean, you have a time to get up to speed because you don't have the grip that you do on pavement. So you need a run up time to get through the timing lights. So how does that progress?
How it progresses is that, so in a perfect world for the Bub 7 Streamliner, we would need 10 to 12 miles from start to finish. We start at mile 0, and I get towed up to 50 miles per hour. And it's mandatory that I release the tow rope at 50 miles per hour, stick it in first, and I'm on my merry way. So in my world, first gear is like around 190 miles per hour. Second gear is probably 230-ish plus 250. Third gear would be about 300. And fourth gear would obviously be, from 350 on up. So I have been 363 miles per hour with not a happy ending in the Bub 7.
Oh, was it a crash? I mean, or it
Yeah,
just did?
I crashed at 363 miles per hour.
Well, that's got to
I
be
say
quite.
that with a smile because, yeah, I don't mean to be smiling about it, that's for sure, because we have been, rebuilding the motorcycle for 3.5 years. We're getting ready to race it here at the Bonneville Motorcycle Speed Trials in August. And so this will be the first time that I actually get to go race in it since the crash. So the crash, was devastating, obviously. But, due to the high winds that we encountered, that was the result. And that's why we are so dedicated to our speed and our safety first, our speed comes next. But yeah, we definitely don't race that motorcycle fast with high winds.
So you're in a Streamliner situation. This is what most people wouldn't be familiar with in terms of, if you can, I know there are mini motorcycle classes. There are motorcycles that would be familiar to people. You're talking about the S1000RR. There could be Suzuki Hayabusas. There could be all kinds of motorcycles. But in the case of a Streamliner, it looks like essentially a two-wheeled rocket. It's enclosed. You're essentially in a, it's not a capsule, but you're completely.
I'm in a closed vehicle, or
Right.
I'm in a closed motorcycle, and not to mention it being enclosed is that I'm actually like a couple inches away from the floor to the ground. So I'm totally strapped in with a harness of all different directions. My arms are strapped in, my legs are strapped down. And the safety and the bike, how they built the motorcycle, is what saved my life.
Well, in terms of, safety features, it seems like I said, you're all strapped in and you've got all of your safety gear on inside there and so forth.
Yeah.
And then you're in radio communication with your team during the run.
No, I have
No,
nothing
you're not.
to do with it. No.
Is that because you're not allowed to be, or is it just would be too distracting for something like that?
I believe it'd be too distracting for me. Because they can't catch up to me. They don't see what I see.
Right.
I have the front row seat to history, so they're way back there. They're still trying to catch up to me, to even get to the end of the racetrack.
I didn't know if there were like sensors and they could be monitoring, the sort of what's going on with the engine or any of the systems, as you're going. Like
They can now. Yeah,
Okay.
we've got some new things coming out that we can do that. So
Okay. Right. So this has been there's been a rivalry between the Bub 7 Streamliner and the Attack Streamliner. That is, the current record was set in 2010 by Rocky Robinson in the Attack Streamliner, and so to break the record of 376.363 miles per hour, you've got to do 2 runs. Is that correct?
correct. I have to do a return run, and it has to be done within 2 hours. And
so,
I have to cross the timing light within 2 hours.
So what is the time limit for? Is that, do you have to go through a tech inspection between the runs, but then they want to make sure that it's, has to be on the same day, or what's with the?
Yeah, we have to do it on the same day. And actually where we end up at the racetrack, we pull off to the side, and that's our pits.
Okay.
When we're ready to make our return run within our 2 hours period, we'll call the tower and tell them that, hey, the Bub 7 is ready. And that's when we'll go down the track, providing the weather, everything is that all the conditions are right, with the wind and whatnot.
So with a motorcycle, it's on 2 wheels, and with a Streamliner, how does it sort of stay upright when it's parked? And how do you get a Streamliner turned around? I mean, it sounds like very silly, but it's like people hate doing U-turns on a regular motorcycle. So how do you do
I know, right? So we pulled the motorcycle close to the trailer, and we have a harness that they lift up. It's a harness, and they lift it up and they put it underneath a cart. And so that's how we kind of move the bike around, and it's battery operated, a cart, and it's very secured. And actually that's how it travels in the trailer as well. So they just, push it. It's actually, you can push it right up there, but and as you ask about how do you balance, well, it has 2 skids on each side. And so with the skids, you're able to balance the motorcycle, and that's how I get up to about 80 miles per hour, and I put the skids in. At that time, the gyro effect really kicks in. I am unleashed from the tow rope, at 50 miles per hour. I'm already in first gear, And when that gyro effect really kicks in, then you can really feel the motorcycle like really going.
Wow. That's awesome. Like I said, I've only been to the speed trials once. It was pretty impressive. They're open to the public, are they?
Yes, yeah, it's all open to the public. The Bonneville Salt Flats is actually open to the public. You just can't have big events on it unless you need to get a certificate, or you have to get approval from the Bureau of Management
Right. Right.
type
Well,
stuff.
what I recall is that the pits are, it's like a large paddock area that's kind of like it's pop-up tents and RVs, and everybody's got, their trailers to work on various vehicles and bikes, and so it's a buzz with activity. However, you can't get close to where the runs are being made. That's what
Right.
I'm thinking most people don't realize. As a spectator, you've actually got to be pretty far away. So you really need some binoculars or something. You can hear the run, but it's not like you're in the stands next to a drag strip.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's what's really different about the Bonneville Salt Flats. I mean, there are spectators that can be up at the front line as we leave the line, but they don't actually get to see us in motion, going down from third mile to fourth mile to fifth mile. So I know that normally when we get to race and we're going down the racetrack, I know that a lot of people do stop, and they are interested in seeing what we do and how fast we go.
Do they run any drones or anything to do photos or video? Because when I did it years ago, we didn't have drones. They were, like I said, it was 2008, and they may have existed, but they weren't the sort of things you can buy from Amazon. But do they do anything like that to get sort of an aerial view of the run, or is that something that it's not permitted?
It really depends. I mean, it's more, yeah, we've had some drone action on the Salt Flats, but that was because we had a movie crew following us, and the movie crew was the one that brought the drones. But the event organizers don't have a drone, so I mean,
Okay.
that I know about. I don't know, because I'm in the cockpit.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, you can't see it.
Flying around me.
Just-
I'll still be faster than the drone is, but
right, exactly. Well,
but I haven't seen any like a part of their event.
You actually brought me to one of the questions I was going to ask. So there's an upcoming documentary called Rockets and Titans that you're involved in. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it's about our team, and along with the other teams that are competing for the record, and who will be the first to go 400 miles per hour. Dennis Manning and the rest of our crew is a big feature in this film, and you're going to go to this movie and see the documentary, and you're not going to leave with a dry eye. Your eyes are going to be all wet.
All right.
So it gives me goosebumps. It gives me chills. Just thinking about, sitting in the movie theater, just watching it. So.
Do you know when it will be released? I know a lot of things have been delayed with the pandemic and so forth.
Yeah, I don't know when it's going to be released. We're all, biting at the chomps to know when it's coming. And you just hate to keep asking, well, when is it coming? When is it coming? I know they get that a lot, but we'll see when it does, It's getting close. I know it. It's getting close, because they're asking me for photos like this. You probably can't see it, but
right.
They're asking for photos of way back when I was a child.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm sure
do this.
I'm sure some announcements will go out, and our magazine website we'll send it out via social media and so forth like that. So look forward to watching it. So, you've been earned titles such as the Queen of Speed, the world's fastest female motorcycle racer. What does it feel like to be, have just titles like that, honorifics? That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big deal. It doesn't make me, it makes me, I feel proud of myself, just knowing that I've come from such, a lower end of speed, and to go gracefully rise above the speed now. Whenever I do something, I put a 200, 1,000% into doing what I'm doing. And I'm just having the time of my life. It's not easy sometimes behind the scenes of, the sponsorship supporting us, and, we don't have any We don't have any filming. We're not on camera. We're not on TV type stuff. So it's really hard for some big companies to come, and join us to be a partner. But that's, I guess, would have to be one of our biggest struggles. But um, just to have this title is quite amazing, and it feels great. So, and not to mention, it takes a team. I'm not the only one that helped. It's my teammates that actually got me to be where I'm at.
Absolutely. I know I mean, working at a magazine, I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I always call it kind of like making the sausage. It's like, is that there's so much more that goes into it. It's always a team effort. Is that, your name may be most visible, in some of the coverage, but all of the effort that goes into it behind the scenes is really what makes it possible. So,
They make me look good, so they make
yeah.
me look fast. I am fast.
Well,
Hopefully we can be faster this year.
Well, you mentioned that it was what 2017 when you did the 328-mile-an-hour run in the
Yeah, 2018.
2018. Okay,
And
so
that's the same year I crashed. So
okay,
I did that within a few days
okay.
of, of each other. Yeah.
So you've got 4 years that you've been. You said the Bub 7 Streamliner's been rebuilt. You've been preparing. This will be the first time that you've raced that Streamliner again in quite a long time. Did the pandemic and all the lockdowns and stuff, did that disrupt your training, your preparation at all? I assume that there were no trials last year. That's right.
Yeah, we didn't, they didn't have the Bub 7 or the Bonneville Motorcycle Speed Trials. They didn't have that last year, but I have been training. I have been, training hard at the gym. I've been playing my pickleball for my, fitness regimen as well, cardio. But also I have been racing another sit-on bike. I also raced in the Target 550 Streamliner car. So at Speed Week and a couple of other events. And we're supposed to go to Australia twice, 2019 and 2020, but we got held up because of the pandemic. But the Streamliner is still in Australia.
Oh, okay.
However, yes.
So, we've talked about drag racing and land speed racing, and people I've talked to when I went to speed trials is to talk about the kind of the salt addiction. Is that once they go once and then they just feel compelled, it becomes kind of an obsession. They keep going back. Um, do you have a preferred? Do you like drag racing versus land speed racing? How are the challenges different? And is it the rush? Is it the top speed? Is it the overall challenge? I mean,
Right. I like them both. They both have the same effect, but you get to do, when you're drag racing, you get to do it more often. You get to be on a circuit and you get to go to different states and you get to see all your fans in all different states. And that's what I miss. I love that. Um, I love that part about it. Racing at the Bonneville Salt Flats, you're limited. You can't test. You can't go to the Bonneville and take out a 25-foot motorcycle Streamliner and bring all your teammates there to go and test. So testing is really testing in a run.
right, right.
So everything that I do behind the scenes for my fitness and my mental aspect is all behind the scenes. And when I get into that motorcycle, the lights come on. I get to shine. It's my racetrack.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's something that people don't think about is that, like you said, even though the salt flats, the conditions have to be right, the track has to be prepared. And then, that was the case when I went a number of years ago, is both the Act Attack and Bub 7 Streamliners were there, but they couldn't do full runs because the weather is what the weather is. If it happens to be windy most of that week, is maybe some of the, the bikes in different classes that aren't going for outright records can compete. But at that level, if the weather doesn't cooperate with you, then that's got to be a real challenge, because you've got to plan this event far in advance. You've got to prepare for it far in advance. You can't just like, oh, we'll come back next week.
Yeah, no, you don't. I mean, you got paperwork, you got to apply for it. You got to apply for the AMA, the FIM. You have to get physicals. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of paperwork just to get, to the salt flats prior, and you have to do all that prior to coming to the salt. And, then you got to get everybody ready for it, and it's like we all have to gel. We haven't been, doing this for a few years. So our routine, we have to go through routine. Everybody has a task that's on our team. And we have a crew of 14 to 16 people. So without all those people there, then, I don't know, we couldn't accomplish what we do on the racetrack.
So the speed trials are coming up. You said they're in August, and they're
Yes, they're in
usually about
August.
what are the dates?
August 28th. First, I'm going to go to Speed Week, and that's
Yeah.
August 7th through the 13th, I think. So I'm going to ride a sit-on bike for Turbo Tiger. I'm going to be on a Turbo Kawasaki, and we're going to go for FIM record at the Bub 7 Stream. So I'm going to race the sit-on bike, and I'm going to be on the Bub 7 Streamliner.
Okay.
So looking forward to, just getting some runs down the racetrack during Speed Week to prep me for the Bub 7. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great.
It's been a while. It seems like it's been forever since I've been in the 7, the Bub 7.
Well, yeah, you said if it's been a few years, I mean, that'll be a big deal. So, we wish you the best. Is there anything else you want to tell folks about the speed trials, your racing, anything else you got coming up you want to talk about?
Well, I'm entering my first pickleball tournament this weekend. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I am a full pickleball player now. I play pickleball. I've played 10 days in a row now, getting ready for this tournament. And I'm playing a ladies singles, and I'm playing a mixed doubles. Trying to see if there's another mixed double ladies that I can play with. And for those that don't know pickleball is a little ball. It's a wiffle ball and a paddle. It's just like tennis. It's just a smaller court. So yeah, you're moving just like tennis. I was a former tennis player.
Okay.
In high school, and I just thought it was going to be a part of my fitness regimen. And after the 8th time I played, I said, I really want to try to do this like bigger. I want to go big in it.
Right.
And that I can do that because, there's so many tournaments in so many different states. And pickleball is so fast, and it's the fastest growing sport. And not to mention, I mean, there's so many similarities in pickleball and racing. So, like when I feel like I've had the slowest run in my run, and I knock out a 328-mile-per-hour time. Well, when I'm hitting the ball, it seems like it's forever. It's like, wow. So does 328 miles per hour feel?
Right.
It's slow. It's like everything's in slow motion, and everything is slow motion in pickleball as well.
So do you play indoors or outdoors?
I play outdoors.
Outdoors.
And we even built a pickleball court.
And you live in Arizona? What's it like playing in the summertime?
Today's 110 degrees. We stopped at 105 degrees.
Okay.
So yeah, but it's good for me because it's acclimating me to the salt flats.
Sure.
And being at the salt flats, you have to bring your fitness regimen out there. You have to bring your training. You have to eat good, all the right foods out there, all the right drinking out there as well. The hydration, and the water. You can drink water all day long, but you have to have other things in that water to go with it. So, right. And that's what I'm learning about my body now, because I'm playing in the 105-degree weather, and the sun is beating on you. You go to the Bonneville Salt Flats, I'm in a fire suit, and I feel like I'm 115 degrees, and I got a helmet on, and then I got to be in an enclosed vehicle. I feel like it's hot. I do have a cool suit, so the cool suit helps me cool down. It helps my heart rate. I got to get my heart rate on a nice pattern. I play pickleball. My heart rate, my breathing has to be right as well, so that every time I step on the court, the pickleball court, I feel like I'm in race mode. So it gets me in race mode. So that's my training.
Well, and I don't think, if people have never been there, almost everybody's heard of the Bonneville Salt Flats, but I mean, it's in western Utah, pretty much the middle of nowhere. And the nearest town is West Windover. And, it's near the Nevada state line. And It is, you actually, listeners can't see it now, but you have it as a background, and we're doing a zoom.
I do. I
And
welcome to the
it's so
Southwest.
you can see the mountains way out there in the distance, but then it's just this white surface that just seems to go on forever and ever. And so
Forever. Like 25 miles worth of surface of the salt. And it's like, but you can see the curvature of the earth as well.
So it gets really hot out there if you're going to be there in late August, and you want it to be in late August so it'll be dry, because in the wintertime there'll be could be some water out there, so it needs to be hot and dry for the best conditions. But so like I said, we definitely wish you the best at both the speed trials and at the speed week, and then the motorcycle speed trials. I hope the weather cooperates with you and the conditions. So how do people keep up with you? How do they follow you? Do they have a website, social media?
Yep, I'm all over on social media, but if you go to my website, which is ValerieThompsonRacing.com, I have all the proper click buttons to the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and my YouTube channel as well. So
great.
Go there and give me a click and give me a likes whenever you can. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll include some links in the show notes and make sure that folks can reach you that way. You've been very generous with your time, Valerie. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Wish you the best of luck. And since we're doing this interview before this speed trials, is what we'll do is we'll check back in with you after the run, after August, and see how you did. Does that sound good, Valerie?
Absolutely.
Great.
Hopefully I'll still have the big mile per hour glow, and I'll be faster than 200 or 328 miles per hour.
That's great.
Like right now you're witnessing the 300 mile per hour glow.
Right.
So maybe I can have the 350 mile, 370 mile, 80 mile per hour glow. I do have to take some hot laps down the racetrack before I get to, go full throttle on the racetrack. So
sounds good, Valerie. Thanks again. And for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Drevenstedt. Thanks for listening, and keep the rubber side down. If you've enjoyed listening to the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, please subscribe, leave us a positive rating, and tell your friends. We also encourage you to visit ridermagazine.com, where you can get the latest in motorcycle news and reviews and sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also subscribe to print and digital editions of Rider Magazine, which is published 12 times a year. Thanks again for listening.